welcome to Heather's Further Adventures in Terrible Lighting. Um, it occurred to me that the last two videos that you guys have watched, they're all about what if you decide to choose living in a car. But it occurred to me that most of the people watching this right at the moment are friends of mine who already know that I'm living in my car, who already know that they have no interest in living in the car, who just want to see where I'm going and what I'm up to. So I will sprinkle those other little bits in from here on out, but I promise you the rest of it's all going to be about, where I am and what I'm up to, and it'll actually be interesting to watch, because unless you're planning to live this life, that other stuff doesn't even matter. So yeah, let's jump right into that. I'll show you where I've been and where I've gone and what I've gotten up to, and we'll take it from there. One of the things that happened to me as a kid, we didn't take a lot of family vacations because my mom didn't drive. And so after my parents divorced, it wasn't really an opportunity. But my grandparents would come out and get us every summer until I was about 12 years old. And so those turned into family vacations. It was a 2 or 3 day drive depending on how they did it. And one of my favorite parts about that drive was this thing that you see ahead of us here, and I don't see it coming up on the video yet, but trust me, it's there. This blue arch, and we have construction, that says, Ohio, come back soon. Ohio.org. And leaving under this bridge, yay, was always one of my favorite parts of the drive. Because I knew at that point that we were leaving Ohio and I was heading off on a grand summer vacation. Well, folks, I have been sitting in almost exactly this same GPS coordinate location for about an hour now, and I still have not made it to Indianapolis. Yeah. That's the view, folks. That's what the view has been for at least an hour. One more quick note about Interstate 74. From what it appears, based on the signs I'm seeing, it looks like that goes right through Peoria, Illinois. And I don't know a lot about Peoria, but I'm relatively confident that is where my father grew up. Now, I'm not real sure how clear it's going to come across on the camera, but right up ahead there, you can see Peoria, Illinois. Because I always heard it in the context of, a place that my dad lived when he was a kid, I always had this feeling that it was just this little small town that, nothing big going on. I certainly did not expect to see high-rises. I clearly didn't know anything about Peoria, obviously. It looks a lot like every other small Midwestern town that I know, meaning Columbus, Cincinnati,
keep left
Cleveland,
at I-74 West,
Indianapolis, and they all kind of look the same, and this looks a lot like that, although there appears to be a pretty cool bridge coming up. I realize
continue
that you guys
straight for 1 hour and 6 minutes to I-80 West toward Davenport.
Excellent. Now shut up. I realize that you guys probably can't really see a lot of what's going on because I know that my cell phone camera is not best in the dark. That's okay. Let's try not to hit this car. But I still kind of want to show you what we're driving through, and so you guys can get a look at it all. Yeah, this looks like a pretty cool bridge we're going across. Peoria for the next 7 exits. Alright, just standard, trestle bridge, I think these are called. But still, it's nice. It seems fairly new. In the dark anyway. Who knows what it looks like in the daylight. Peoria County. Yeah, I'm just astonished at how large Peoria is. I honestly had no idea. Because I always had these idyllic 1950s suburbs in my head, from watching black and white television, I'm sure, as to what my dad's childhood was like. It never once occurred to me that Peoria was a city, like, with high rises and everything. Alright, so I will freely admit I am pretty pig ignorant about everything that occurs anywhere in the United States that I haven't personally experienced for myself. So, expect that. I'll show up places I've only ever heard about and just be completely astonished at everything. Hey, you haven't seen some dark highway in a little bit. Thought I'd share some darkened highway with you. Specifically, when I originally planned to do this drive, I anticipated that I was going to be driving up I-65 from Indianapolis up to Chicago. And I ended up not doing that portion of the drive, and I was kind of sad about that because there was a particular shot I wanted to show you along I-65. And since I'm not going to get to show it to you there, I think I might be able to show you here, though. Let me pan off to the right. And I wanted you to notice the robot uprising going on off to our right. If you'll notice all of those red lights blinking in unison, the first time you come upon this when you're driving past a darkened field where the only thing you can see are all these thousands of blinking red lights, you're like, the aliens have invaded, it's the robot uprising. And I don't seem to see it here in this particular batch, but when you do the drive up I-65, they're spaced a lot closer together, and they look like they're much more in unison with one another, except that every now and then as you're looking out on this vast field of robots, you'll notice that several of them are blinking out of unison with everybody else. So I like to think that those are the commanders of the troops, and they're giving the orders, and the infantry, who are all in sync with each other, are receiving those orders. And I don't even know what the orders are because it's the robot uprising. It's more robot uprising. See it? Watch for the robots. I stopped for just a minute here in Avoca, Iowa. I needed to get gas. But I had an amusing experience I wanted to tell you while I'm still sitting here recovering. The winds are blowing so steady here that I couldn't get the car door open. I mean, I did. It needed a lot more effort than I really expected. My fuel economy was really down. I was really surprised. It was coming in about 30 miles an hour shorter of what 30 miles total, shorter than I really expected. So I stopped early to get gas because, I wasn't quite sure if I was having a mechanical problem or what. But when you're driving at 75 miles an hour, it's hard to notice that you're having a wind problem. So I got out of my car and nearly froze all my bits off getting gas. I mean, I've got a nice fleece sweater on, but it's not windproof in any way. So yeah, when I got back in the car, I checked to see what the winds are, and it's a sustained 22 mile an hour wind with gusts up to 40. So yeah, it's a little rough right now. So I'm definitely feeling the lateness of the hour. Yet my eyes are tired and would really like to be sleeping at this point. And I'm sure the 5-hour energy drink is worn off at this point. And the clock in the car is still set to Eastern time and not Central where I'm at. Yeah, so I should say that I worked a full day yesterday that started at 7 a.m. Yes, yesterday. That started at 7 a.m., which is an hour earlier than usual for me. And the whole point was so that I could get off an hour earlier to make it to a dental appointment. So I went to the dental appointment, took care of that, went home, and got partially packed for this trip, but also partially packed for an overnight sleep study that I had to have done. Now, if any of you have ever had a sleep study done, you're not going to get particularly good sleep. In part, aside from it's like the worst hotel you've ever slept in my case, this bed was very squishy. It's not really a bad thing, but it's kind of like sleeping in a nest instead of sleeping like on a bed. And for the last 2 years, I've been sleeping on a very firm mattress. Not my favorite, but it was free. To me, anyway, it used to be my mom's. And so to go from a very firm mattress to a very soft mattress was not super comfortable. They also have, a strap around your chest, wires all up in your hair, and a pulse oximeter type thing taped to your finger, and you've got wires dangling off everywhere. And so if you want to shift, if you're a side sleeper, from sleeping on your left to sleeping on your right, you have to deal with all of that to roll over. At one point in the middle of the night, I completely disconnected the tubing and had to the CPAP machine they had me on. So I had to replug this thing back onto my face at whatever time it was in the middle of the night. And they have you go to bed at 10 or 10:30, which is much earlier than I usually do, but I was also already tired. And I knew that I had this drive coming up, so I was happy to take as much sleep as I could possibly get. So I did that. I think I got home at 6 in the morning. And they tell you when you get home, they use something that's sort of like florist clay. She said it's a real thick Vaseline, a thick petroleum product, to hold the electrodes to your head, which means that if you have hair, it now means you have this thick paste in your hair. And she's like, yeah, you want to wash that out as soon as you get home. Apparently, once it dries onto your head, you just don't even want to think about that. It's the nastiest stuff you can imagine. And it makes your hair look fabulous. 1 second. So I wasn't super rested. Part of why I got a later start than I would have liked today is that after I took that shower, I laid down and got 3 hours of good sleep in my own bed with my own CPAP machine. And I woke up feeling pretty refreshed. But it meant that I didn't leave town until almost 11 o'clock. It's a little later than I would have liked, because I figured that would have me rolling in at about midnight, 1 o'clock. And it probably would have, were it not for getting stopped for 3 hours on the highway. But as you can imagine, now that it's 4:20 in the morning Eastern time, yeah, that's a little later than I really ought to be up, all things considered. Alright folks, as promised, I have reached the hotel safely. It was a little touch and go there for a bit, I have to admit. The 80-mile-an-hour speed limit is so much fun, except that it is snowing and the roads are icy. And I noticed that, and I was in the process of slowing down, while changing lanes to go around a semi. And as that happened, just as I came up on his rear wheels, I fishtailed pretty significantly. But after, taking my feet off of everything and saying, oh, no, 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 over and over and over again, while the car was slowing down, it did right itself. So that was super good. The ABS kicked in, did what it's supposed to do, so that was nice. But yeah, we were definitely orthogonal to the road at one point in time. And within about a mile of where my fishtail happened at, we passed a semi that was, this way in a ditch. So yeah, I slowed down to like 50 after that and was just tooling along. And yeah, it was even doing 50. It's the kind of weather and the kind of cold where when you see a sign that says bridge ices before road, you know that when you get to that bridge, you're gonna need to really know what you're doing. Um, so all across my back, neck, shoulders is all tense and stressed out from going on the road. It's just winter driving. I haven't done it in 3 years really because of COVID lockdown. Nobody drove anywhere really. Not nobody, but those of us who had the opportunity to not drive anywhere, not drove anywhere in winter the last 2 years. So it's been a good 3 years since I've done any winter driving. So it was an abrupt, non-crashing course in road safety, winter road safety. So anyway, I just wanted to end the video. Thank you guys for coming along. I'm going to try and get a little bit of footage while I'm here in South Dakota, and give you guys a glimpse of what this state has to offer. It'll just be a glimpse, though I'm only here for 24 hours. And we'll talk a little bit about setting up residence and how that process goes. But thanks for coming along on the 13-hour, 16-hour push to get here. I really appreciated having someone to talk to. And I will see you guys in the morning after I've had some sleep and some breakfast. All right, good night.